We're starting it at the Dolphin Club. You see the beautiful boats and the woodwork behind. We're headed to get a burrito up in North Beach, or the gap between North Beach and Fisherman's Wharf. So here we go on our San Francisco walk. OTAs started today, and OTAs are going to continue tomorrow, and the media is going to be able to watch practice tomorrow. So that's exciting stuff for 49ers and their fans. Devondre Campbell, 49ers new line, notably the Green Bay Packers. Supposedly he's the kind of guy that has taken some shots at his former teams before, but he's having fun at OTAs. A good first day for Devondre Campbell. Meanwhile, you might have noticed in the title, I said Brandon Aiyuk might not be as happy as Devondre Campbell because Brandon Aiyuk seemed to imply versus Twitter, or via Twitter, that he is not. But the thing about Brandon Aiyuk is that he's cryptically tweeted before every single stage of the 49ers offseason so far. So I'm not going to sit here and read too far into things. It's one of our 10 things to watch. If you go into the description on this article, you can go and look at the 10 things to watch. Matt Barrows and I wrote an article for The Athletic taking a look at those. Deebo Samuel's condition, I think that both of those guys will be training camp additions. Anyway, here we are. We're on our walk. This is the cable car turnaround at Hyde in Fisherman's Wharf. So you see the cable cars will spin around back there. It's a beautiful afternoon here in San Francisco, but it's a little bright if you look that way. We're not quite at sunset yet. Now, this right here is one of my favorite spots. Should be one of your favorite spots too. I think it's a perfect spot for a 49ers OTA preview, at least to walk by. This is the Buena Vista Cafe. This is the original home of the Irish coffee. The Irish coffee story is a really, really cool one. A San Francisco Chronicle travel writer was stuck after an emergency landing in Ireland. And he had the bartender at the Shannon airport make him a drink that combined alcohol and coffee. And they called it the Irish coffee. And then he actually had the bartender, the writer's name, the San Francisco Chronicle travel writer's name was Stanton Delaplane. He had him move to San Francisco. He opened the place behind me, the Buena Vista Cafe, and he employed, or it was like a joint venture with the guy who made him the Irish coffee over in Shannon, Ireland, which is near the Cliffs of Moher. Cool spot. I think I've told my crash landing story there before. We'll save it for another time. We'll keep on talking 49ers OTAs as I make my way up Russian Hill with cable cars in the background. So probably no Brandon Aiyuk. I'm looking forward to seeing Deebo Samuel. Last year, Christian McCaffrey busted his ass at OTAs. I mean, he set the standard for the 49ers. The guys like the Energizer Bunny. You'd think multiple-time All-Pro, big-time weapon, might be taking it a little bit easy at something like OTAs. That is absolutely not the case with Christian McCaffrey. He sets a relentless tone in the offseason, and he sticks to it through the season. And it's a big part of the reason why he's a great player. So I always look forward to seeing Christian McCaffrey working out at OTAs. He's going to be there tomorrow. No pads at OTAs. I think that's really important to remember. This is not going to be contact football like you'll see in training camp. So it's important not to read too much into it. There might be some preliminary installation, but the true installation happens in training camp. This is a good chance to see rookies working alongside veterans for the first time. It's probably what I'm most excited for, to be 100% honest. At rookie minicamp, we saw Ricky Pearsall separate easily against rookie DBs and tryout DBs. We also didn't get to see him work with a quarterback of Brock Purdy's caliber. We didn't get to see him work with a true veteran quarterback, right? So even though he's separated, they couldn't get him to football. Ends up being a little bit of a problem. At OTAs, Brock Purdy is going to be able to throw to Ricky Pearsall. They've already been working off on the side together as well. Last year, Brock Purdy at this time was not throwing. He was recovering from the elbow surgery. This year, he's already thrown a high heater, a fastball at the Giants game, the Giants-Dodgers game the other week. That was the first pitch. So this year, Brock Purdy is healthy. He's throwing. He's going to be part of OTAs, and he's going to be able to make receivers like Ricky Pearsall look really good. He's going to be able to make Brandon Aiyuk, if he shows up, look really good. But I don't think Brandon Aiyuk's going to be there. Deebo Samuel, go down the list. Juwan Jennings has yet to sign his restricted free agent tender. There's no worry. I think he almost certainly is going to be with the 49ers because nobody's swooping in to, with an offer sheet that is greater than that second round tender that the 49ers put on him. But we'll wait to see if and when Jennings signs, and we'll see if he's part of the festivities of OTAs for the 49ers. I mentioned the body types of some of the rookies last week. Dominic Pooney, the rookie lineman, Jarrett Kingston, another rookie lineman. Both of those guys look like big athletes, and the relative athletic scores reflect that. We'll get to see them move a little bit within the context of the 49ers scheme. But again, no pads, so you're not going to be able to see much physical nasty in these OTA practices. And I think that's worth mentioning because people are going to try to read way too much into this. This time last year, people tried to read way too much in OTAs. We had people who don't know what they're talking about say that Trey Lance was likely to be the 49ers starting quarterback. They were really wrong. They were really exposed for a lack of common sense and football knowledge. So, I would recommend the way to cover this correctly is to look at it calmly and say, okay, this is not a situation where every single snap is a referendum on what the 49ers are going to do next. This is simply springtime work for the 49ers. As I make the turn onto Columbus, a lot of you who have visited San Francisco as tourists probably recognize this area. It's Fisherman's Wharf. There's a little bit of a gap between the water and the exciting part of North Beach. As you can see behind me, there's the Transamerica Pyramid in North Beach, and that's where we're headed. I'm going to this place called Cilantro Taqueria. It used to be called Taqueria San Jose, and they've rebranded. I used to live on the corner over there. It wasn't the best taqueria, but I don't have a chance to go all the way down to the Mission today. I don't have as much time, so I'm going to see what this Taqueria Cilantro has to offer us on the northern side of San Francisco. Anyway, if you've got questions about OTAs, let me know. I think that when we talk about this being a good showcase opportunity for receivers, also a good showcase opportunity for defensive backs. You're not going to see the physicality of press man coverage from the defensive backs, and you're not going to see the ability of Ricky Pearsall to really beat it, given the fact that this is a lower contact kind of situation, no pads at OTAs, but still a good chance to showcase movement, right? Still a good chance at OTAs to see how athletic guys can be, see how the 49ers work in space, and really see how the comfort level of some of these young players really stacks up against the veterans. Because the 49ers will slot players into playing time. They'll have the first team line, the second team line. They'll slot players according to how they feel players are doing in the film room. And a lot of what we see on the practice field is a reflection of the work that is going on behind the scenes that we obviously cannot see directly. So that's all going to be really interesting this weekend. We make our way further down Columbus. This really is a little bit of a dead zone. I showed you guys the Buena Vista Cafe. I'll show you guys, oh, you can see the tops of Russian Hill here. I think that tower right there is some sort of art institute. I've always thought it looked like Tuscany in Italy. And that's fitting because North Beach is the Italian neighborhood of San Francisco. But I am ready for your questions here. Make sure you do click on the link in the description because that's where the good stuff is about the 10 things that we are watching during this OTA session. You know, the quarterback position, that's going to be interesting too. Brandon Allen, Josh Dobbs, Tanner Mordecai is going to get another shot at a few throws. But, I mean, it's Brock Purdy's show. And it's going to be cool that we get to see him working in an offseason for the first time. We didn't get to see Brock Purdy working in the offseason last year. And the season before, well, he had just been drafted and he was way down at the bottom of the depth chart for the 49ers. So I think it's going to be a new sight to see Brock Purdy trying to hone his craft during the course of an actual offseason program. The 49ers are always trying out players. Somebody's asking if they're done with a 90-man roster. NFL teams are never done with their rosters. You're constantly looking to get better, even at those back-end positions. But they're filled right now to the brim. If they need to, they'll cut somebody. Which rookie can show up at OTAs and position themselves for a potential role come training camp? Dominic Pooney. I think that he's ready-made, body-wise, physically, to be at least the 49ers' sixth man. So it's about grasp of what's going on now for somebody like Dominic Pooney. Renardo Green, it's going to be a little bit tougher. You got to fight through a crowd at that DB position. But he's a second-round pick. He's got talent. He led the ACC in pass breakups, so you can't discount his ability to hop in there and grab a job, or at least contribute right away, maybe at that inside cornerback position, the slot cornerback, where they're going to work first. Somebody like Isaac Guerendo for the 49ers, you know, I think is extremely exciting because of his athletic skill set. He can deliver immediately on special teams. Seems to be a player that the 49ers, and I know this for a fact, a player that the 49ers went out and drafted with the new kickoff rule in mind. So, I mean, nobody can earn a spot in OTAs, but as Mike said, you can certainly position yourself favorably. And some of those higher draft picks, the top half of the draft, are obviously players you would think the 49ers had a higher grade on, but anybody can prove themselves, as Mr. Purdy himself has already proven. Malik Mustafa, yeah, somebody's excited to see him play. One thing about Malik, though, is I just think he's such a physical ball of muscle. I think he's somebody that will shine once the pads come on. Tatum Bethune, the 7th-round linebacker, that's somebody who's going to shine once the pads come on, or have his best chance to shine once the pads come on. Ricky Pearsall's a really smooth mover, but we already know that. I think that what's potentially going to allow him to really make a name for himself in the NFL is the fact that he's tough, on top of the fact that he moves so smoothly. So you don't play actual football until training camp, which is why it was just so ridiculous. And we have to keep on reminding people of how bad Trey Lance takes were last year from certain content creators, because they just completely exposed people for a total lack of understanding of how football practices work, how the quarterback position works. People thought that OTAs, even though Lance performed, I think probably worse than Sam Darnold last year, but people thought that OTAs could be something that undid a full half season of top-notch quarterback play from Brock Purdy, and it didn't. OTAs are not going to move the needle in that kind of way. The 49ers need to get their work in. That's what's important. But to act like what's going to happen during the course of the next several days is going to be more than that is just absolutely foolish. So this is where I'm going to go, but I'm not going to go yet. I've heard that Cilantro Taqueria is a spot that is worthy of me checking out. So we're going to check it out, but I want to talk more Niners. And actually, we're walking by an area that's going to be a little bit more exciting. We're out of the dead zone. We're approaching North Beach, so you guys can keep on asking your questions. I'm committed to this. This San Remo Hotel claims to have America's oldest Italian restaurant. I'm not sure if I believe them, but established 1886. There's never really anybody in there, though. And I used to live by here, by Fiorda Italia. And even back then, I never really saw that many people in there. I should give them a shot one of these days. I get it. Where I lived was Chestnut and Mason. So I was able to look up Mason. You could see the cable car tracks. But the cool thing was living right here next to Cafe Capriccio. This is a good hidden North Beach gem. Obviously not open anymore. They're closed at this time of the day, but you can get off of the beaten North Beach path. Go to my old spot at Chestnut and Mason. And then you could see some humorous names of a laundromat. Wash this. Actually, you can watch this as we talk about the 49ers. Well, maybe we'll make it by the Joe DiMaggio playground and close to Washington Square. They've added this new wall of San Francisco's mayors through the years. There's Dianne Feinstein, Willie Brown, Harvey Milk. There's Ed Lee. The mayors of San Francisco, all of them on one wall. And this is not far from the Joe DiMaggio playground. That's where we're going to walk by the blacktop where Joe DiMaggio first played baseball. It'll be cool. All right, I'm ready for more questions. We're talking the 10 things that we're looking for at the 49ers OTAs. And my main point is look for things casually. Don't freak out. Don't overreact, because those takes never age well. Right tackle. Right tackle is going to be Colton McKivitz. I mean, he's the first stringer at right tackle right now. He's not going to be unseated by any rookie, at least to begin. They're going to start working Dominic Pooney at guard. I think that Colton McKivitz has the ability to get better in his second year. I think the biggest issue on the 49ers line last year was at right guard, which is why you saw John Feliciano replace Spencer Burford. And then Feliciano got hurt in the Super Bowl. Burford came back in, and really the big error in that Super Bowl came from the right guard position. I mean, there were errors along that offensive line the whole game, but the critical one was at right guard, and it came on third down in overtime. Wasn't good. So right guard is something that the 49ers absolutely have to figure out. Interior pressure is something that scuttles plays and disrupts quarterbacks more than anything, especially in the modern game. You've got these really quick defensive tackles. I know Aaron Donald just retired. That's a big break for the 49ers, but it's become a trend league-wide. The interior pass rush through the A-gap, to the B-gap, is something that can blow up the play of any quarterback before it even starts. Pressure around the tackles, if you've got good mobility as a QB, and you've got a good sense for where things are coming from, you can actually beat it off schedule, or you could just be on schedule and have that quick release to beat it. So pressure around the tackles, I don't think is nearly as debilitating as pressure up the middle. And one issue for the 49ers is that they've been dealing a lot with pressure up the middle. And that's where the drafting of Dominic Pooney and Jarrett Kingston and those guys might help most immediately. So there's Russian Hill, beautiful Russian Hill splashed in the sunshine. And then this right here, this is the Joe DiMaggio playground. Used to be blacktop, but this is where Joe DiMaggio first played baseball. Played for the San Francisco Seals before he went to the New York Yankees. So Joe DiMaggio is a native here of North Beach, Little Italy of San Francisco. And where people now play basketball and tennis, that is named after him. We move on. The 49ers have Mick Lombardi and Brandon Staley talking on Wednesday. All the assistant coaches are going to be available. It'll be interesting to hear what the exact role for Mick Lombardi is. I mean, he was the offensive coordinator for the Raiders last. San Francisco lost Clint Kubiak, who left to be the offensive coordinator of the Saints. So I would guess that Mick Lombardi will help scheme the pass game. Brandon Staley, obviously, that's going to be the most popular assistant to talk to. People always want to talk to a former head coach, former Chargers head coach. A couple of years ago was Anthony Lynn. Now the former Chargers head coach, who's an assistant coach on the 49ers staff, is Brandon Staley. That's where we're headed to, toward those steeples on the church. That is St. Peter and Paul on Washington Square. Why are the 49ers practicing in Irvine? I believe it's because the Saints are practicing in Irvine. It's a joint practice with the Saints. And I don't know where the rest of Saints training camp is, but I think there's a chance it's in Irvine. I know the Cowboys have their training camp down in Oxnard. I wouldn't blame the Saints for wanting to get out of Louisiana during the month of August. So 49ers Saints joint practice is in Irvine, and then the 49ers Saints game is at Levi's Stadium. Now we're getting to the exciting part of North Beach. Gonna head up to Washington Square. I am gonna cross here because I don't want to get caught by that bus. This is where the people from small towns get mad at me for jaywalking and out themselves as never having been in a big city or just getting stuck in the tourist traps. But if you don't cross the street when you have a chance to cross the street in a place where life moves a little bit faster, then you're never going to get to where you need to be. When does training camp start? July 20 something, late July for training camp. That's another question that I just answered. All right, we made it to Washington Square. There's St. Peter and Paul. There's Cafe Pellegrini. Good spot. We'll make our way right under the church. I'm getting hungry. Can't believe I'm walking extra for you guys to ask some of these questions, answer some of these questions. I'm not asking any questions, I'm only answering them. So post a few more. Brandon Aiyuk update? There is no update. He posted cryptically today on Twitter, I think implying that he's not going to be there or he's not at training camp. I mean, today they started OTAs. I didn't say training camp, I said OTAs. They started OTAs today. So Aiyuk posting from somewhere that didn't look like the 49ers facility implies that he wasn't there. He also, with the message, I forgot exactly what it said, but I think it implied that he wasn't flying to OTAs. So the Brandon Aiyuk update is the 49ers and Aiyuk's side are still quite a ways apart. How many calories did I eat on the day of the Golden Gate swim? Well, considering I got seasick, it took me a little while to replenish everything that I lost during the Golden Gate swim. We got some video of it now. We were dealing with massive, massive swells out in the open ocean. It was crazy. Can you tell if the 49ers are playing differently at OTAs or training camp? No, especially not at OTAs. Camp, I mean, a little bit. You could start to see stuff when... The problem is that until you see a team actually take the field in the regular season, you won't see truly real football, because even at training camp, they don't tackle fully to the ground. So when you're not tackling fully to the ground, it's not real football, especially for a team like the 49ers that's, A, tries to be really violent and physical defensively, but B, the 49ers try to be the top yards after the catch team in the NFL. So if a defense is not tackling fully to the ground, then 49ers offensive players don't have a chance to showcase their yak, the yards after the catch. And then the lifeblood of a football team isn't on true display. So I think that training camp is about roster competitions. OTAs is about just getting guys' feet wet, acclimating, and seeing how the actual team looks cohesively as a unit, doing the things that it does best, trying to mask its weaknesses. That's something that you have to wait until the regular season for. I mean, everybody wants to make the judgments sooner, but sorry, sometimes it's just not possible to do so. So I'm standing in the middle of Washington Square Park now. So there's St. Peter and Paul. Speaking of Joe DiMaggio earlier, he and Marilyn Monroe took their wedding pictures in front of that church. I think they had both been divorced, so they weren't allowed to take their actual, or do their actual wedding at the church. They got married at San Francisco City Hall, but since Joe was from this neighborhood, that was the church where the photos happened. San Francisco Italian Athletic Club, of which I'm a member. Behind me, there's Coit Tower, Telegraph Hill, monument to the city's firefighters. And we're kind of in this little valley, I guess I should say, underneath Russian Hill, and in between Russian Hill and Telegraph Hill, where Coit Tower is. And we shall continue. We can walk here and we can see the line at Tony's, the award-winning pizza. Keep on making it through the park and see how our Italian friends are doing in North Beach. Speaking of the Italian Athletic Club, we have a nice little contribution to the neighborhood right here. The Italian flag sidewalks. Isn't that something? And you know, I actually like this place, Aquilina. I wonder if they have affogato. I would go for an affogato if it were a little bit earlier. Gelato with espresso. They're playing their Italian music, I know that. Love, life, food, wine, passion, people. We'll head up the hill a little bit. Here's a gelato shop, but they're closed. Oh, I mentioned affogato. Look at that. Right on cue. Espresso, coffee, gelato, into affogato. Complete with Italian flags. Great. I would be very happy if it were earlier in the afternoon, they were open, and I can handle the caffeine. Antonio thinks the 49ers defense is going to be a lot better this year. And again, we won't be able to tell through OTAs, but I hope so. I mean, this dropped to the number 12 defense under Steve Wilkes. They're hoping that the Sorensen-Staley infusion at the top really helps them return to their prior selves. I think that's one weakness to talk about with the 49ers until they address it. I'm going to keep on talking about it. I feel like I'm the only one talking about it, is the run defense. I mean, it was absurdly bad last year. They dropped from number 2, either number 1 or number 2. They were number 1 and number 2 the prior 2 years, down to number 26 in run defense. It was brutally bad. So the 49ers, I think, they don't have a DJ Jones type. They really do miss DJ Jones. And with that nose tackle type, you know, without that proven nose tackle type on the defense, the interior has struggled to hold the gaps and just essentially hold the line the way that it needs to in a wide 9 against the run. And that's hurt the 49ers defense in many ways. It's had big time downstream effects. So DJ Jones left a couple years ago already. Who's going to make up for DJ Jones? I'm really looking forward to seeing Evan Anderson out on the field. I always have to say no pads, so I don't think that this is quite going to be the best time to see how physical the 49ers are or aren't. But Evan Anderson's the undrafted rookie. They gave him $280,000 guaranteed out of Florida Atlantic. That'll be interesting. I think Kalia Davis needs to have a good offseason, a good training camp. The 49ers are going to be counting on him. somebody has to take that DJ Jones role and give the 49ers at least 60 to 70% of what DJ did. Otherwise, it's going to be tough for this run defense to be very good. Now, I do think, and this is a cool mural, a baseball field with a lot of Italian names. Right by the old Gino and Carlo. We could swing by Golden Boy. That's some Detroit style pizza. Old school place, Golden Boy. Now we're in the heart of North Beach now. This is a fun walk. Golden Boy smells really good. Problem is there's always a damn line outside of Golden Boy. Makes me not want to wait, especially if I'm live with you guys right now on YouTube. But these North Beach walks are fun. Sodini's, they got their old celebrity table. There's one celebrity table over here. They've been here since 1906, probably since this city rebuilt after the great earthquake of 1906 that burnt a lot of it down. Over 100 years in North Beach for Sodini's. Tuscan cuisine. And now we make it to Grant. We're gonna walk by the bars, Maggie McGarry's, Tupelo. There used to be maybe it's still there. Look, I found a Niners flag over by the old Tivoli bar. There's your Niners flag. Right on Grant. Oh, here's a driverless car. Hope it doesn't run me over. He's thinking about it. Nah, they stopped. I guess I kind of dared him to run me over. See, no driver. I remain safe from the driverless car. I feel safe in them too. We should do a show from a driverless car again. It's been a while since we did one of those. All right, so this is Grant. This gets a little rowdy. Not tonight. These places are quiet tonight, but normally you'll have dozens of people outside Maggie McGarry's. Normally you have people stumbling into these streets. Instead, I'm just walking the wrong way down the street with not even a car coming toward me. Moe's Burgers is also solid. Looks like a slow day right now, but that's the circular grill, the spinning grill at Moe's. Do I think the 49ers will make it to the Super Bowl again? I think there's a lot of pressure on them to make it back this year and win. I don't know if it's a guaranteed thing. It never is, but I do think they have the best roster probably in the NFL. I do for sure think they have the best roster in the NFC. They kept most of it together. I think they made the defensive line deeper and better. I think they made the offensive line better. I think they added potential playmakers. So on paper, the 49ers have a chance at least to be better. Now, guys have to prove it, especially the rookies. I'm never one to crown rookies before they actually deliver, but when you look at what the 49ers were able to do with an already loaded roster this offseason, I think it's fairly impressive. And that's all that I can say. I passed a pot store. That's funny. I did pass Gino and Carlo too. Yes, putting Fred Warner in coverage too often was part of the run defense struggle. So you need a good nose tackle. That really helps on base downs. And then I think you need to play your linebackers better than the 49ers played them last year. I think that they were a little too coverage focused with guys like Fred Warner. I think they need to be more focused on stopping the run, especially on early downs, to put themselves in better pass rushing situations. So Cafe Trieste is legendary. My Czech grandfather also actually grew up in the Italian city of Trieste. And then here you've got the Italian flags and lampposts. And you've got Cafe Trieste, cash only. Sweet place. That right there is the national shrine to St. Francis of Assisi. Obviously the namesake of San Francisco. If Molinari, the epic deli here, were still open, and they're not because it's after hours, I'd take you inside and we'll walk by the window right now and you'll still see a whole lot of good food. I remember before the 49ers played the Eagles, or maybe after the 49ers played the Eagles, I went to the first cheesesteak shop in California. It's called Buster's, right behind me. By the way, we made it all the way to Columbus at this point, so you could see the Transamerica Pyramid. San Francisco just bathing in sunshine today. It was a beautiful day. I went on a long swim today. It was awesome. Water was a little bit chilly, but that sun gives you psychological warmth. So our next look here is at Molinari. When these guys are open, these are going to be some of the best sandwiches in San Francisco. They've been here since 1896. They're going to return tomorrow at 9. For now, you could window shop at Molinari. But it's going to be really similar to Italy, where you're walking through. Just, you can kind of see in there. They've got all the meat. They've got all the cheese. Feel at home at Molinari. All right, guys. We're walking to the taqueria now. I made a big detour on the way to dinner for you. Still a lot of you watching, though, so I'm ready to talk. Ready for more. Always ready for more as we walk down Columbus. Yeah, sharks are afraid of me, not the other way around. To be honest, I was going through so much pain the other day as I was trying to swim through the Pacific Ocean and these waves, seasick. I wouldn't have minded if a shark came to visit me. I really would not have minded. That's how tough this was the other day. It was brutal out there. I think the Pacific Ocean scored. Pacific Ocean 1, David 0. You definitely learn of the power of nature when you're out there. So there's the shrine to St. Francis of Assisi. There is the Transamerica Pyramid. There's a look at the moon. Moon is looking nice tonight, this evening. I'm not walking towards City Lights. I was walking towards City Lights, but now I've turned around and we're walking back up toward Washington Square. You know, I'm gonna walk by this place called Barbara. It's a pizzeria, which is like Roman style pizza, which is really, really good. Give you guys a little look at it right now. It's Monday, so it's really quiet out here. But if you've never had pizza, this Roman style pizza, it is absolutely delicious. This place, Barbara, is worth going to. And I believe that this is the original location of Bank of America, right next to Drop the Gun, Take the Cannoli. I love working at this cafe. Cavalli and Company. They're open late. You can get beers. You can get coffee. You can watch all of North Beach. But when you look at this right here, Bank of America started as Bank of Italy in North Beach. And when they started as Bank of Italy, they decided they needed to change their name to Bank of America to get the American clientele. And now you have this beautiful building right on the corner of Green, Columbus, and Stockton. All right, guys, 49ers OTA preview. What else do we need to talk about? I'm ready for more. On my way to Cilantro, the taqueria, for a nice burrito. Making the walk down Columbus. Yeah, Devondre Campbell was throwing some shade at the Packers today, that's for sure. Said he enjoyed being with the 49ers. All right, here we go. Here we got some Italian pastries. And we have gelato. Looking nice. But I'm holding out for a burrito. It smells really good in North Beach. Food everywhere. Spencer Coakley is just ready for Ricky Pearsall to prove that nothing's wrong. I mean, the nothings have been wrong about every single thing regarding the 49ers. Like, their wrong rate is probably 100% over the course of the last couple of years. Goes back to Garoppolo, goes back to Lance, goes back to who the 49ers were going to pick in 2021. It goes back to Brock Purdy. The most embarrassing was the Brock Purdy thing. I mean, it was so obvious that he was really good, and there were people who just were not able to accept that. So, yeah, Ricky Pearsall probably going to be next on the list of things that they're wrong about. That's all good. Sit back, be quiet, let people expose themselves. I think it's a simple formula. I'm ready for a few more questions, guys. You know the walk by now. We've got a few more minutes. Spencer Coakley loves his new word that I've just popularized, the know-nothings. Don't I think that the reason the 49ers passed a lot in the playoffs was because they were behind a lot? It might have been part of the reason early in the NFC Championship game, but they weren't really behind in the playoffs outside of that first half. They caught up really quick against the Detroit Lions. I mean, it was snap of a finger. And it was something like 109 pass plays and 77 run plays. Sorry, but being, behind in just a half is not going to create that kind of difference. The reason the 49ers passed so much more than they ran, the primary reason is they're moving to more of a pass-first offense under Brock Purdy, which I think is tremendously exciting for the 49ers because they also have the best running back in the game in Christian McCaffrey. This was the number one offense in football. It was the most efficient pass offense, and it was a really damn good run offense too. They're tapping into their ability to be explosive. The NFC Championship game deficit itself does not begin to explain the changing tide of pass-run balance for the 49ers. As far as the game against the Packers went, they're up for a lot of that game. They got a little bit behind in the second half, but it was never enough to abandon the run. Here's Piazza Pellegrini. I love this place. My favorite part is the outdoor seating here. And their cable car. You guys remember the Italian flag crosswalks? This sign right here, also generously donated by the San Francisco Italian Athletic Club. How about this shot? Coit Tower, right behind St. Peter and Paul. Excellent breakfast burrito at Bodega right there on the corner, but they only serve it on Saturdays, and I've yet to have it. I've just heard that it's really good. If you guys are interested in pastries in North Beach, this place will do it for you as well. But I'm on my way to get a burrito, so we're gonna wrap this walk up pretty soon. Is Christian McCaffrey a wide receiver or is he a runner? How about both? I think that we've tapped into a theme. The 49ers are multi-positional offensively. And they're trying to be as multi-positional as possible. Even Pearsall took some end arounds in college at Florida. I think even he can take some handoffs. So I think Purdy will have another great year. Well, he's a great player, so I would expect him to have a great year. Great players put up great years. What away game do I most look forward to next year? I want to go see people jump on tables before the game in Buffalo. Is Brandon Aiyuk contractually obligated to be at training camp? Yes, he is. 49ers have to fine him. They're also obligated to fine him by NFL rule for every day that he doesn't show up. Christian McCaffrey's a Swiss Army knife. That is true. He indeed is. Burrito book in my future? Sure. Sounds good. Sounds like a good plan. We just had a flurry of good questions. I'm pretty happy about that. Golden hour walks are a fun thing because everywhere you turn in this city, you've got a spectacular view. Look up the street here. That's Greenwich Street. Another look at Coit Tower. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up at 46 minutes. It's been fun. I'm about to eat. We'll talk to everybody soon. OTAs, availability is tomorrow.